President Biden announcing today that he will pardon thousands of Americans convicted on simple possession of marijuana charges. Good Thursday evening, everyone. Welcome to Western Mass News at 10 on Fox 6. I'm Chris Pisano. The move fulfills a campaign pledge to erase prior federal possession convictions and begins the process of loosening federal classification of the drug. Western Mass News reporter Lexi Oliver joining us live in studio with more. Lexi?
Chris, this is the president's first major step towards decriminalizing marijuana, which remains illegal under federal law.
Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana.
President Joe Biden making a big announcement Thursday. In a video posted to Twitter, the president lays out the 3 steps he's taking to decriminalize marijuana.
First, I'm announcing a pardon for all prior federal offenses for the simple possession of marijuana.
Senior administration officials say that move will affect thousands of Americans.
It's already legal in many states, and criminal records for marijuana possession have led to needless barriers to employment, to housing, and educational opportunities.
The president pointed out the racial disparities in those impacted by marijuana charges.
While white and black and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionately higher rates.
Second, he says he's encouraging all governors to take similar steps to pardon state simple marijuana possession charges.
No one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana.
Lastly, Biden says he's asking the Secretary of Health and Human Services as well as the Attorney General to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law.
The federal government currently classifies marijuana as a Schedule I substance, the same as heroin and LSD, and more serious than fentanyl. It makes no sense.
President Biden adds that while some regulations are changing, it's important to keep in place limitations on trafficking, marketing, and underage sales. Reporting live in studio, Lexi Oliver, Western Mass News.
Lexi, thanks.